All right, everybody, welcome back to Unscripted from my studios in Old Hilliard. And speaking of Old Hilliard, I'm just gonna just cut straight to the chase. I don't want to take any more time than is necessary for me to just sit over here and talk. I want to go to what I believe is going to be one of the most powerful stories we've ever shared on Unscripted. And I can tell you this up front, one of the most awesome people I know, and I have the blessing to call my friend. So, Shaun, why don't you introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Taking the time to on the show. It's definitely an honor and a privilege anytime I get the opportunity to share my story, to just talk with good people, which I put you in that category, man. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you.
um, but yeah, man. So again, my name is Shaun Lane. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, a city called Youngstown, with my mom. So she was a single parent of four. And life was it got challenging at times. So I grew up in a faith-based environment where we went to church, man. We went to church so much. I mean, we lived in church. The kids that I went to church with were closer friends than the kids I went to school with. That's how much I went
Mm,
to church.
wow.
So I mean, Sunday twice, uh, morning and evening. Tuesday night, Wednesday was rehearsal. Friday night. That was every week. So and my mom she taught us that church was a priority. So growing up, I didn't really have the opportunity to participate in many sports simply because if it was a conflict with our church schedule, we just couldn't do it. So
Mhm.
we were always in church. I never played football. I mean, in the yard I did, street ball, but I never really participated in any organized sports. And at the time, I didn't understand really the importance of church. I knew that we went a lot. Um, I knew that it was a major part of our life, but I didn't really understand the purpose behind it, if you will. So I just thought we were just going to this place all the time to learn about God. But now, years later, I understand the importance of not only being in church, but having a relationship with God. But going back to my time then, so yeah, we did participate in many sports. So I grew up in the inner city. Um, uh, my mom really figured it out. She really figured out just her and us four. I got two brothers and a younger sister from my mom, and then I got a stepbrother and a stepsister on my dad's side. But I think back to my mom and how hard she worked and how much she did for us to try to make it. I didn't know that we were really struggling until I got older. And you can't really hide when the lights get cut off or if the water gets cut off. You can't really hide that from your kids. So it was at those times when I started realizing that we're kind of struggling.
Mhm.
Now I say all to say my dad. I love my dad. I love my dad to this day, and I love him then too. He just wasn't as present at that time, but now our relationship is amazing. I talk to him every week, and you know, no love lost there. But again, I'm just referencing back when I was growing up. So yeah, we were pretty good in sports, in street ball, because we didn't play um, on actual teams or in organized sports because of church. But I fast forward to my eighth grade year in middle school, and my mom worked, so she had to be at work from I think 8 to 6 or something like that. In middle school, we went to school so early, so I mean, I was catching a bus at like 6:30. I had to be at the bus stop, and then we normally got out of school about 2:15. So I don't know why I thought it was okay. It wasn't okay, but I still did it. um, I just tried out for the football team. So I would go to practice every day, and then I would get home before my mom got home from work. So she had no idea. She had
So,
no
so
idea
hang
that
on, Sean. So you played football. Your mom didn't even know.
I was on a football team. My mom didn't.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, yep. So here it is. I'm every day, and the house that we lived in wasn't necessarily close to the middle school I went to, because they had closed down like 2 years prior. They had closed down the middle school that was near my house, so they were just busing students all to one middle school, which was I would say, 10, 15 miles away easily from my actual house. So by me playing sports, that mean I had to find a ride home after practice, which
Right.
means I normally walked home. So I would hurry up and hustle home before she got home from work, just,
That's
trying to make
incredible.
the,
That's incredible. It's incredible. Seriously.
yeah.
What about like
So
waivers and stuff? Did you have to get waivers signed, or it's a different time? But
yeah, different. I don't know about foraging or what. I don't know. So yeah. So here we are. I'm practicing. I'm going to practice every day, and it turns out to be I'm starting quarterback. So I know, I know, man.
come on, man.
So here we are today. We're literally loading the bus to go to our first game, and I tell the coach, like, "Hey, my mom don't even know I play football."
That's insane.
Yeah. So we go down to the office. He's like, what you mean? Yeah, I said, she don't know. So, because I couldn't hide it then, but the game wasn't going to be over till after 6 o'clock. I wouldn't be able to make it home before she got home. So
Right.
we go down to the office, we call her, we're talking. She talked to the coach, and then I get on the phone. I'm like, oh man, here we go. I thought I was in trouble. She like, what? Go ahead and play. So I'm like, oh my God, that was probably like one of the most exciting moments of my life to that point,
Right.
just to get the green light to actually play football. So went out. She actually showed up to the game and had a really good game. Scored a couple touchdowns, and that's where my football career actually kicked off. Strangely enough, I didn't think that I was going to be able to play the very next year because I would have been in high school. Because high school football games are on Friday nights. We had
Right.
church Friday nights, so
Mm.
I was almost comfortable without even asking. I'm like, look, I'm gonna get this 1 year in, and I'm just gonna hang my hat on that. But that following year, she said, "Look, I'm gonna let your brothers play because I let you play 1 year." So she let us all play, and we that's where I think a lot of my toughness was built at, as far as from a sportsmanship and the ability to compete. Because
Hmm.
our school, we're Division 3, but we were playing against the Maslins. We actually played against LeBron James my freshman year.
Right. St.
Yeah,
Mary.
he was a receiver. So yep, we played against St. Vincent, St. Mary's, and
That's right.
yeah, I mean it was fun, but again we were getting thrashed. We were getting demolished by some of these teams. They were bigger teams, and um, we just couldn't stack up against them. But again, it taught me toughness, and how to prevail, if you will, against adversity. That was the introduction to it.
Hmm.
So you fast forward my sophomore year, had a decent year, and then there was a school, a Catholic school in my area called Ursuline, which they had just won the state title, and
Hmm.
just a good school known for producing some talent, and they were interested in me coming there to play. So I was for it. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Everybody in the city knew about Ursuline. If you had an Ursuline Letterman jacket on, people knew who you were. So I
Hmm.
was looking forward to that opportunity. Um, so and it was crazy how God was already working in the details at that time. But again, here I am, 14, 15 years old. I didn't see it. I just knew what I wanted and what I wanted to do.
Right.
So I'm gonna give you the details now. So, in order to go to Ursuline, which Ursuline is in downtown, near WashU campus, you cannot at the time you could not have a Youngstown address. You had to live somewhere outside of Youngstown to go to a school in Youngstown, which was strange,
That is
So,
strange. Yeah.
what we ended up doing was we used the address for one of my mom's best friends that went to our church, which was out
Hmm.
in Hubbard. It was out in the city called Hubbard. So we used her address to be able to register at Ursuline. My mom took me and my younger brother. My younger brother's a year younger than me, so he was a freshman. She took us out of Youngstown City schools, but my older brother was a senior, so she let him stay and finish out his time there. And this is after Christmas. She took us out of school. She, with the intent to enroll us in Ursuline at the beginning of the new year. So we went to about 2 or 3 meetings at Ursuline, and it seemed like each time we went, something came up for his name was Father Murphy. He was a principal. He had to reschedule, like literally 3 times. So my mom's taking off work, taking
Mm.
us there. We're out of school for almost 2 weeks after school start because these meetings keep getting postponed. And then finally after the third one, she's like, you know what, this is enough. I'm just going, I'm taking y'all to Hubbard. So we went down the road to a school called Hubbard, and that's where started. I didn't only thing I knew about Hubbard was that they went 10-0 the year before. They had a
Mm-hmm.
guy named Anthony Smith. Which Anthony Smith was a great athlete. He went on to play at Syracuse. He won two Super Bowls. He won one with the Steelers and one with the Packers. But again, that's the only thing I knew about Hubbard at the time. So we ended up going there, and I remember being frustrated and not understanding. Like, I don't want to go to the school. I remember saying that to my mom. I don't want to go to the school. She said, well, God has a plan,
Mm.
and we just gonna trust him with it. He's gonna make a way. So I remember the frustration in that conversation. But that turned out to be one of the best moves that I've ever made. I get
Right.
there, meet my high school coach, Coach Beck, and he really took me under his wing and taught me a lot, not only about life, but even when Ohio State started coming and knocking, showing that they were interested, he was the one that was getting me down to Columbus,
Wow.
just to get with the coaches and go to the camp. So he was making sure that I was where I needed to be. But high school career went well. Got offered by Ohio State after my junior year, which was right after they won the 2002 national championship. So it was a no brainer. That's where I was going. I remember being in Coach Trustle's office. My dad was there, and my dad played at Ohio State. He was a captain back in the '80s.
Okay.
So just that tradition, that opportunity was just when he told me that they wanted to offer me, I said, "Yeah, where do I sign?" I'm like, "I'm here." He said, "Well,
Right.
no." He said, "You go home and think about it." They was actually going to meet the president after winning the national championship. He said, "And I'll get back with you on Tuesday when we're back in town." So
Wow. Well, and you,
I
as
know.
being a Youngstown guy, you probably knew Tressel, right? I mean, you were familiar with Tressel, and really the Tressel family. I think it's connected to Youngstown State, and that could be wrong on that. But I know even growing up in Cleveland, everybody knew Tressel. And he was so
Yep.
tied to the university in Youngstown at Youngstown State before he even went to Ohio State. So you probably knew him before you even
Yep.
went to Ohio State.
I sure did. I mean, he won like 5 national championships at
Right.
YSU, or something like that. So
Right.
well known.
Mm-hmm.
And I think back to him getting a job at Ohio State. That was 3 years before I went there. But it was just, every God was in the details, every
Right.
step of the way.
Right.
Because I'm
Right.
not sure that he would have even known who I was, because I
Mm-hmm.
think Coach Russell was on the coaching staff, and my dad was at Ohio State. So
Wow.
again, just all the ties and how God weaves and wove his life, like it's just amazing. Even me just sitting there talking to you, I never even really put it all together in that aspect. But um, just moving along through the journey, I get down to Columbus, Ohio State, dream come true, just an amazing opportunity. And I just wasn't for sure, if I could be real honest, transparent with you. Like I wasn't for sure that I measured up to the level of talent that I was, about to be competing with, because we had it was a platform called JJ Huddle. I don't even know if it still exists. But what it was like a recruiting website where people, they talked about who was being recruited and everything else. And, they will, I will read the comments, unfortunately, of what they would say about me. Like, oh, they shouldn't be recruiting him. Like, that's the last, so I was reading that stuff and taking it in. So when I got to Ohio State, I almost, I didn't feel like I belonged. It was, Ted again, the number one
All
top
right.
recruit in the country, you know. So he's coming in, and Marcus Freeman, and we got some big hitters coming in. And here I am, just a guy from Hubbard, Ohio, 5'10", 165, corner.
Right.
So we get there, and I know pretty quickly that I had to figure out a way to make a name for myself, which it, I just switched I remember just changing my thought process. Like, I'm not going to be afraid of anything that comes at me, and I'm going to take it head on.
Mm-hmm.
So any chance I got to make contact with somebody, any chance I got to hit, I wanted to make sure they knew I was there. So
Right.
that's kind of the mentality that I took on while I was at Ohio State. And, my teammates started knowing me for it. Like, oh, Sean Hill later wood on you. You watch you watch out.
Head on
So
swivel. Head on swivel.
yeah, man, keep it on a swivel. So that's kind of what I adopted, was that mentality of, going all out,
Mm-hmm.
trying to, when you arrive on the scene, everybody needs to know you're there. And so
Mm-hmm.
you come in with, you bring some heat, you bring some wood to the party. So
Right.
again, I adopted that mentality, and that's how I went at everything that I did at Ohio State. One of the unique stories was here I am. So I'm going into my redshirt freshman year. Um, we're in camp. I'm a number two. I'm right behind Tyler Everett. I think he was a senior that year, and we had a freshman come in that was pretty good, But again, he was behind me. His freshman name was Malcolm Jenkins. So,
Yeah. Okay.
so we got a freshman come in. I'm a two. Malcolm's a three. And that summer, we had some guys that got in some trouble on campus, so they got suspended from the team, so they couldn't participate in camp. Um, so here we are, second week of camp. Again, I'm number two in the depth chart, and they come to my room, my hotel room, and say, "Hey, we're going to need you to switch over to running back. We don't have enough running backs on
Come on.
scholarship." I'm dead
And
serious,
again, list
man.
list your tail of the tape.
Yeah,
5'10".
yes.
What was it?
5'10", about 170, 175 at this time. So,
There's not a lot of
playing running
5'10",
backs.
175 tailbacks in the college
No,
football.
not especially not in the Big Ten.
No, especially not in the Big Ten. Absolutely. Sorry, go
So
ahead.
I'm like, oh, okay, but team player. Like, all right, I'll do it because I played running back in high school. So they switched me over. We get to first the beginning of the game. So of course Malcolm moves up. He's a two now, and I'm on the depth chart, and I think I'm third in the running back, third or fourth. And then not to mention that we already knew within a year that Beanie Wells was on his way. He had already
I was
committed.
gonna
He's a
say,
top.
I was gonna say who was in
So
front of you? Because I mean, I know OSU is like RBU. So
yes,
who was in
we
front of
had
you?
like we had like Brandon Joe and Brian, I think his name was Snicker. So like, we had some guys that were, filling in, but we just didn't have that dominant threat. Some of the guys again that got in trouble that wasn't even. We had Antonio Pittman. He was there,
Right, right.
so he was
Yep.
the main guy. Me and him actually came in the same year. So he was our main guy. So there was backs, but
Yeah.
they didn't feel like the depth was there. So again, I switch over. Uh, so I'll switch over. First game of the season, we're playing against Texas, and Vince Young is the quarterback. It's at
Right,
home,
right.
uh, and it is rocking. I mean that game was rocking. It's probably one of the loudest, next to the Michigan game. It was probably one of the loudest I've ever heard on the stadium,
And that was the
ever in
game
my
of the
life.
week, right? Whatever night that is. What is that? Saturday
Yep,
night or Monday night? Whatever it
yep.
is.
It was a
I don't
Sunday
know.
night game. Yep,
So yeah, it was a
yep.
big deal. I do remember. Again, I'm not an OSU fan. I mean, not I don't. I'm not a hater. I'm just not. I'm a Carolina fan. So, but I watch sports when they're on TV, and I remember that game specifically. I mean,
Yeah.
I do remember that game, and it was like the game of the week. There was a ton of buildup because what was the
Oh,
ranking at the time? I think it was like right. I mean, I think this was the game
the game.
before the
Yeah.
season, right? Like this was because
Yep.
you always have a couple of those circled on your calendar, and this was the game. I do remember that.
Yep. I mean, he figured he had about between both teams, you probably had about 6 or 7 guys that went first round just in
Right,
that game.
right,
So
right.
it was the AJ Hawk, the Barbie Carpenters, the Vince Youngs. I mean, it was a lot of Dante Whitners playing in that game. So again, here it is. It's we in the first quarter. I think we might have been the second kickoff of the game, and our starting corner gets hurt. So Tyler Everett gets hurt.
Oh
And
no.
here it is, Malcolm plugged in. Now he's a starting corner, and he ended up starting for the rest of his career. Like he
Is that right? He never gave it back, right?
he,
He
he
never gave it
never gave
back.
it back.
Never
He
gave it
started
back.
the rest of his career. Malcolm Jenkins goes on to win the Jim Thorpe Award for the top defensive back in the country. First round draft pick to the Saints. I mean, and there would be times that I would say, man, that should have been me. Like
Yeah.
that should have
Yeah.
been me. That should have been me that would have been in that space. And it wasn't until later on, just a few years ago, where I really started to put together why it wasn't, why maybe it wasn't me. Again, we don't understand God's plans and why He does things,
Hmm.
but sometimes He gives us a brief glimpse into His planning and the things that He had in store. But that year, so not only was I not, I was on offense, and the guy that was behind me was now the starter, but I think it was the seventh game into the season, I tore my ACL at Minnesota. So going down covering the punt, it was a non-contact. I just was running and I kind of felt it pop and
Mm.
ran off the field. And yeah, so that was the first real adversity that I faced at Ohio State, trying to come back and um, come back from that rehab. But again, the mentality of going at everything as hard as I could because I already felt like I was didn't measure up, if you will, to the talent, the skill level, the size of these guys that we were playing against. So I was going to bring it with effort. So I rehab real hard. I mean, I rehab. I lived in there, and then season started. I'm still on offense. Beanie Wells is there. He's obviously taking the spot of between him and Pittman. They were just battling back and forth, and I get, I think it wasn't until my junior year, my redshirt junior year, I finally convinced Coach Trustin to allow me to transfer back over to defensive back, because I knew that if I had a chance in the NFL, that it was going to be a defensive back, not a running back. At that
Mm-hmm.
time, again, that was my thought. So I'm thinking about my family. I'm thinking about, um, you know, the change I could make to not only my family but the generations of my family afterwards. Again, with the proper planning, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that was always in the back of my head, being that ticket, being that opportunity, being that source of removing us from not necessarily poverty, but from living the life that we grew up living, where just barely getting by is enough. That's it's a mentality
Mm-hmm.
that we grew up with. So I jump on the scene to get a chance to switch back, but once I switch back to defensive back, I'm third on the depth chart. I got like two redshirt freshmen in front of me, so some guys that were
Right.
playing some good ball too. So it was just an uphill battle to try to even get back in the starting rotation. So I had to make a name for myself, kind of in special teams, where I was get out just making plays. That's what it was. It
Mm-hmm.
was, it was effort and grit, trying to make it happen. So, yeah, I kind of made a name for myself on special teams, cover punts, force some fumbles. It just, again, just giving all the effort that I had. During this time frame, me and my wife now, we have my oldest daughter. So here I am, a dad. I had her my junior year of college. And I shared with you guys because that was at the time it was like, I remember having a conversation. I remember having to share it with my mom, and it was the last thing she was trying to hear, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily hear, but the last thing that she felt that I needed, or that I actually needed, from a standpoint of being focused on the task that I had at hand, from being in college and being a college athlete.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff I learned during fatherhood,
Mm-hmm.
it definitely helped me later on in life. Again, God, He does all these different things at the time. We don't see it. We don't
Right.
understand it. We don't understand the move, and it can seem as if it was not a mistake, but it was something it was an opportunity that we should have took advantage of, if you will.
Right. Right.
So navigating through that fatherhood, and I remember me and my wife now, Tiara, having one. We had one car, and she worked in Marysville. We lived in Hilliard. She worked in Marysville. Then so we would have to get her there about 6 o'clock in the morning. Then when I had to get my daughter to the daycare, which is on the east side on Livingston, and then I would have to
Wow.
get to class. So we were doing
Wow.
that like every morning, and then go to practice, get out of practice, go pick her up in Marysville, and then go pick up the baby. So it was leaving the house by 5:15 in the morning, and probably not get back to maybe 8:30, and then doing your schoolwork after you get home and still trying to be a father. So
Right.
it just I think about those times. I don't know how we did it,
Right.
but again, it
Right.
built up character, built up grit to prepare me for what I was going to face later on in life. So I mean, we jumped to my the last game of the season, my senior year. We had Fiesta Bowl playing against Texas again. Colt McCoy, I believe, was the quarterback at this time, and I remember that day. Um, you know, just waking up January the 5th, 2009. Um, I'm in a hotel. We stayed at Fairmont Princess, which is one of the nicest hotels that you'll ever. Yeah. And I woke up and my roommate was already out of the room, and I'm just sitting there on the bed looking up at the sky, and I just felt, you know, uh, I knew that I was blessed. I knew that God gave me so much opportunity and so much talent, and just the position that I was in wasn't a position that a lot of people had the opportunity to be in. So I was just thankful, man. Like I was sitting there, like, you know what, Lord, I just thank you for this moment, for this opportunity. I don't know what comes of it. I don't know what comes after it, but I'm just thankful. And I won't say I've never had that feeling before, but I've never had that feeling to that effect where I just paused and sat in the gratitude of, the opportunity that I had. So I just sat there and just was like, man. And it was just a brief, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but I just vividly remember that, just sitting
Mhm.
on the edge of my bed and thanking God for, just everything that I had up to that point. So,
Well, I want to
um,
pause you real quick because I just had, and this is not a plug, but I just had a guy named Pete Gregg on, and he wrote a book called How to Hear from God, or How to Hear God. And we talked about this because I remember in the delivery room with my daughter, our third child, when we had one of the, and people that heard it know the story, but I had a son and a daughter already, so we had like one of each. I was good to go. My wife wanted a third, and so we ended up having our third, and I remember standing in the delivery room, and again, the reason why I pointed out is because I think I want people to hear that, like, I think we want signs and wonders, and we want audible
mhm.
cues, and and I just wanted to pause there because I do think that it is important for us to know that you're not always going to hear an audible voice or get this you know this moment, but boy, when and that's all I
Yeah.
wanted to say. Like, I know I heard from God that day, and the word that I heard was perfect when it related to my daughter. Like,
Uh,
you know what I'm saying? And again, you've been there, I've been there. So anyone listening to this, just have your antennas up. And I didn't walk in there that day thinking, okay, God, speak to me. It just happened. And
right.
sometimes He breaks through all the noise to allow us to hear from Him. So I wanted to point that out again because I think it's important that we are going to hear from God sometimes when we're not even listening.
Right.
And it sounds like that's what happened to you that day. I'm sorry, back to your story
No,
because but
that's good.
I think it's important, man. I think we hear from God when you get that sense, when you get that moment of I'm not sure what that was.
Right.
A lot of times you really need to lock in on that, and you may not know it until years later or moments later. And so let's cue back in on your story because I think you were about to find out why you just heard that.
Yeah. And again, I didn't, just like you, it's funny you say that because I wasn't even listening to God. I'll be dead honest with you at that time. I was not the last thing on my mind, but it wasn't first or second, so, um, and just, having that moment, which I think prepared me for that night. So we go out to take the field against Texas, and here we are, second quarter of the game, and we're kicking off. I think we had just scored, and I'm running down on kickoff, and I mean, I'm telling you just how I saw it. So I'm running down, and it felt as if everybody moved out the way, like just pause and everybody moved like a commercial, and it's just me and the guy that's running the ball, and I see him, he sees me, and it's like, oh, I'm about to knock this dude out. Like that. That's what I thought in my head. Like, I'm going, I'm not even gonna break down and tackle this dude. I'm gonna try to run straight through him. So that's what I did. I took off. Normally, I kind of, my normal approach, I kind of throttle down and make sure I'm making a tackle, but I was going for, I'm just trying to blow him up. Either I'm like hit him good or I'm 100% miss, and I'm okay with both.
Right.
So I just ran at full speed, and so I go and I hit him. And right when I hit him, I felt a loud humming in my ear, and it was like almost as if I've never been struck by lightning, but I can almost um, I would compare it probably to that. That may be the sense or sensation that I felt when I hit him, and everything just froze up, like boom. So I hit him. I rolled over on the ground, and I just knew right at the moment that something was off. I didn't know what. I just knew something was off. I heard the crowd kind of say "ooh" when I hit him, so I knew I got him. But it just was something was off. So as I'm laying there, one of my teammates, his name AG, he picks me up. He's celebrating, so he picks me up off the ground, and he's trying to celebrate. And I asked him, I said, AG, where's my arm at? And he said, what? I said, where's my arm at? He said, it's there, man, it's there.
Yeah.
So at
Yeah.
that point, the trainers are already running out because I guess they could tell something was off. So he lays me back down on the ground, and I'm just sitting there looking up at the ceiling of the stadium, and I'm like, what? I didn't know. I just didn't know what had just happened, but I did know at that time that I couldn't feel anything on the right side of my body. I couldn't feel my arm or my leg, and
Hmm.
I'm just laying there looking up, thinking like, no way, no way that something like this. I don't know what happened, but no way did it just happen. Like I'm gonna come back and everything's gonna be okay. Everything's
Yeah.
gonna be fine. This is me talking to myself, and I like to joke around a lot. So I found myself trying to joke around with myself and
Hmm.
other people in that moment, um, just to bring light to the situation, as if it wasn't that serious. So again, the trainers get out there, they're kind of filling up my pads, trying to see what's going on. Um, as I lay there on the ground, my leg just randomly started twitching and came back to me. Like to this day, I don't know why or what caused it, but it just came back. So I was able to move my leg, but I still couldn't move my arm. So they pulled the stretcher out, put me on the stretcher. They're rolling me out and going to the hospital. Strangely enough, this was the first bowl game my mom had ever made it to. So my mom was out there, my
Oh.
wife was out there. So
Hmm.
fortunate in that aspect. But yeah, they transport me over to the hospital and start running all types of different crazy tests. And again, just not even knowing what actually happened, what the issue was. But in my mind, I'm thinking, how quick can I get back on the field? How quick can I get back to, chasing this dream or fulfilling this dream that I have of
Hmm.
being a professional football player and being able to provide for not only my, my girlfriend at the time and my daughter, but my mom and my siblings and other people in my family, being able to be a resource for them. So that happens, and I'm laying in this hospital bed. Everything was off. Like everything was off about my body. Like I couldn't. If I had to use the bathroom, I couldn't even hold it. Like I had to go right. Like the body was just off, man.
Wow.
It was yeah, going through that shock. So I was in the hospital for maybe 3 or 4 days in Arizona. Even after the team went back, Coach Russ and everybody, a couple guys came out to see me at the hospital, and I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know at all. I was worried, but I think that I tried to block out one thing, and I think it was a skill that I developed, but it was also it prevented me from sometimes enjoying the now. Was always looking for the next thing. Like, okay, I got this. I'm looking forward to coming back. Like
Hmm.
I just wasn't trying to be in that moment. I was looking for, okay, I'll be able to try. I'll be able to do this and that. And I was always looking forward. But again, I think about that now. Sometimes it prevented me from enjoying the now, the
Hmm.
moment that I was in. Because I mean, the reality is the only thing we actually ever have is now. We look for
Hmm.
tomorrow, but we don't get tomorrow until it's now. Like even an
Right.
hour from now, we don't get that hour until it's now. So
Right.
being being conscious and aware and intentional about enjoying it now is so important in life. I mean, I'm learning as I see my girls, my daughters grow up so fast before me, and
Hmm.
I'm like, oh my
Right.
gosh, slow down.
Well, and I think over
Um,
the last 2 years, we've learned that more than ever. Is
oh yeah,
I mean, we had plans and dreams and goals and all those things, and then over the last 2 years, that's all been taken away from us. Our ability to make a decision, even with regard to our even, and I'm not talking political. I'm not talking any of that stuff. I'm just saying that every one of us over the last year, like our lives have been disrupted. For a long
hmm
time, it was okay. I got my 10-year plan, my 5-year plan, 3-year plan, whatever it is, and we just go do it. Well, over the
right,
last 2 years, I think even the people that are the most structured people I know have had to adjust to, okay, well, actually, I don't have any plans. I got today.
right,
I've got
yeah,
this moment. Like you said, I got this hour. I have today. I have my plans today because, and God knows, especially what's going on right now in the world with
man,
what's going on with Russia and Ukraine and all those things. Like we don't know. We do not know what's going to happen, and
we don't.
that's scary. But I think the last 2 years has really taught us. It's stretched us a little bit. Like you said, man, God's in the details, and I know that's really
hmm
weird to make that analogy or that um, uh, you know connection right now. But at the same time, God's in the details. My wife and I just had this conversation over dinner the other night. Like we were talking and about the world, and she said, like, she's like, God knew, God knows, and
Yeah,
that's really hard to get your head around. How God knows even the bad that's going on right now. But
hmm
she's like, He's allowed it. He's allowed it. He's aware. And that was a good reminder for me. So I'm sorry.
yeah.
Back to your
No,
story, Arizona.
you're good. Yeah, you talk about God being. I mean, He knows. He wrote the book before he finished the book before he started it. So I mean,
Mm,
everything is already done, so it's just playing out, and
Mm-hmm.
everything works together for the good. Like, and I just, again, with my story and having this injury, which once were able to get the testing done, and they found out it was called a brachial plexus injury, which a brachial plexus is the nerves that go from your spinal cord into your arm. So it's really the pathway in which the brain can get the message to your arms and your fingers to move whichever way it needs to. So when I hit the guy, the the force of it pretty much ruptured the brachial plexus from my spinal cord. So it
Mm-hmm.
just it just pretty much got rid of that highway of communication. So my brain is not able to get the message to my arm to move. So when it first happened, they thought it was just a stretching of it, because you can have where it stretches and then over time it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just they really no timetable, it just comes back. But then you have what's called an avulsion, which was my case, where you completely sever the brachial plexus from the spinal cord. So
Wow.
there's not much really that they can do. I went through a couple surgeries, had a couple 12-hour surgeries. I had to go out to St. Louis, Washington University, uh, again out in Washington U, I think it's called, in St. Louis, and seen some specialists and had surgeries, and very little minimal results. So I was left here with the realization that this is going to be my life,
Mm-hmm.
my life, if you will, trying to figure out how to operate in a majority world, meaning majority of people have two arms. To operate with, to function with, to do tasks with, but that wasn't me anymore. So I went from being um, what I considered a high level athlete, to almost being like feeling like I'm less than normal. So it was a big pendulum swing from there to where I was at, just in my own value. Because to that point, I really valued myself as an athlete, as a football player.
Right.
Um, and that's where I spent most of my time doing. That's where I just felt like that's who I was. But it was at this instant that that building that I had built myself up on was not on a solid foundation. And
Mm.
right after that injury was when the foundation of it all crumbled. So here I'm left with myself, just not knowing what my purpose was for life. Um, I'm at home again. This happened January the 5th, 2009. And I'm at home with my daughter. My daughter's almost 2 at this time. And my wife is working, supporting us all. She had to really do everything for us. I couldn't work. I didn't have any income. I had already graduated, so I wasn't getting any financial support from Ohio State. I just had to figure it out, which figured out meant, her taking care of our family. It really struck me because, I grew up in a system having to get, my mom had to get food stamps, had to get, different government assistance, different programs. And here I was, like, I said that was never going to be me.
Mm.
And that was where I was at this time. We just didn't have. So
Mm-hmm.
had to get government assistance, had to get different things just to survive. Um, Went from being an Ohio State football player, college degree athlete, potential NFL hopes, to in the system, having to
Mm.
get food stamps to survive, and it was just a big swing. Um,
And you had to
that I
teach
was.
yourself. And I'm sorry, Sean. You had to teach yourself because it's your right hand, right?
Hmm.
It's your dominant
Yeah,
hand. So you now had to become left-handed. Which I'm
absolutely.
not. Were you ambidextrous before that? Because I'm not. I'm not, and I know my left hand's useless. Like
No,
for me to, I can't write. I mean, I can't throw. I can't do any of those things. So you now had to now on top of everything else, correct?
yeah.
You had to now learn how to use your left hand
Hmm.
for everything that you had used your right hand. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I had to learn
On top of
everything.
everything else,
Yep, writing, all of it. I mean, it was just
right?
a whole new phase, whole new journey of life that I was entering in. Um, and I think about, I told you I have my daughter, and from January to maybe September, I barely left the house. I might
Mm-hmm.
have left the house a total of, I could probably count on one hand how many times I actually left outside of our house. I just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't feel
Hmm.
comfortable being outside. I had lost so much weight at that time. Like it was just, I mean, I was already, I wasn't that big to begin with. You know, I might have lost 15 pounds within a couple weeks of it.
Wow.
And I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I wouldn't call it a depression. And I mean, if you talk to my wife, she probably would tell you otherwise. But I just wasn't in a good place.
Hmm.
Um, I just what was my what drove me at that time? What was the gasoline in my tank at the time was my daughter. You know, I
Hmm.
got to spend so much time with her at home because we didn't put her in daycare. I just was at home with her. So my wife would go to work and, come back. But I spent all those days just me and her at the house, and our relationship grew. And, that was my why at the time.
Yeah.
That's what kept me going. That's what made me want to do better at life. So I would spend so many nights on a computer trying to figure out ways to make money from home.
That's
I wouldn't go to sleep during the day. I mean,
yeah.
I would be up literally hours trying to figure out ways to, how can I make money? How
Hmm.
can I, it just wanting to be home. So that
Hmm.
was it was unique, um, but it was my fuel
Hmm.
to go, my fuel to keep going because there was somebody dependent on me uh, for their well-being. So
Hmm.
that season of life. And then it wasn't until I started working, actually, one of my friends referred me to Nationwide Insurance. I got a job with Nationwide. It wasn't until that point that things kind of the ball started rolling to some level of normalcy. I
Hmm.
worked at a call center doing mutual fund exchanges, all of which I was teaching myself to write while I was there. I remember, I mean,
Right.
you could barely understand how I could barely
Right.
read my own handwriting at that time,
Exactly.
but Nationwide gave me a chance. They brought me in, and I learned so much there, and just that's my first real experience with the corporate world as well. Because I went from high school to college to here I was, but that journey of that getting that injury and where I was during that season of life was just so challenging
Hmm.
because I didn't know who I was. I honestly did not
Right.
know who I was. I grew up, as I mentioned, in the church, but what I learned was religion. I didn't have
Right.
relationship,
And
so I
identity.
knew
Yeah.
about what I shouldn't do. I
Hmm.
knew about the things that I should do. But again, I think it was Paul and the Bible says that. Like I know what I should, I know what
Hmm.
I shouldn't do, and I do it. I know what I should do, and I don't do it. I mean, I
Right.
think
Right.
that's all of us can attest to that, and that's
Hmm.
kind of where I was at. But I wasn't really building on my relationship with Christ, and it wasn't really until I started focusing on that, who He was in my life, as opposed to Him, which He is, being the God of the universe.
Hmm.
Um, it wasn't until that time that I really started seeing some real progress, not only in my spiritual life but in my personal life. And my
Hmm.
wife, she put up with a lot, man. I couldn't imagine putting up with myself at that time. Um, it was a dark season of life that I kind of block out. I talked to my wife about it at times, and she said, "Well, don't." She said, "When you talk to people, don't just breeze over it like it was just a couple months of your life." She said, "That was a that was a time of your life
Right.
that was a determining, a pivotal moment
Hmm.
that propelled you to where you are now." And I'm still in this moment, still learning different
Hmm.
lessons. I shared with you that you know, Malcolm Jenkins came in at Ohio State, and then all that. I get switched positions, and then he's a starter, and he goes on to make this big career. I'm pretty sure he's still in the NFL. I think 15, 16 years later. But something that stuck out to me was during COVID and the shutdowns, and then also during the time where this big racial tension was going on in
Hmm.
our country and this
Right.
divide and Black Lives Matter. And if you look at who was the spokesman, if you will, for the NFL during this call for equality, it was Malcolm.
Wow.
It was Malcolm Jenkins.
Right.
And I remember seeing him on TV, which we're still friends. Uh, we're still friends, but I remember seeing him on TV, and I thought, I don't know if I could have did that. Like
Mm,
if I would have been that person in that seat, and the roles would, I don't know, if I would have been my person, I would probably wouldn't have been the person that would have spoke out and been a voice for hurting people. Not saying that I can't, but I just don't see myself being that person. So it wasn't until just these past few years that I kind of got an understanding or a glimpse into what God was doing way back then in
right.
2005. I'm like, wow, God, you're so good. You know,
Hmm.
you're so good because I just don't I don't know that I would have been that person, would have been that voice, would have been willing to put my reputation on the line in a way in which he did, willing to put my income on the line, um, for a cause. Not again, I'm not saying I don't believe in it. I'm not saying I wouldn't have been on board with it, but he led it. You know,
Mm.
there's a difference. He was out front. He was the face of it. He was the one headed to going to these meetings, speaking with the owners, speaking with different organizations, and figuring out ways to move the needle in the right direction. So again, that was just something that God revealed to me within the last couple of years that I didn't he has this. He's in the details. Like I said, he's in
Hmm.
all the details. So I mean, just an amazing experience that I
I
had.
have to tell you, so for people that don't know you, and I've had the blessing of meeting you, a handful of times. I was familiar with you before that, and what I was familiar with is that you're a guy of great energy, great passion, great joy. And this is before I even knew your story. I mean, this is the honest truth. Like my wife came home one night from a women's group that you had attended with her women's group, and you shared your story there, and she could not stop talking about your story. She just kept telling more and more and more and all the details, and then I was like, all right, I got to meet this guy. I have to meet him, and I was already familiar with you. But what's amazing as you're talking is the way that you have. I have to think anyone listening to this, they've identified with something in your story. Um, you know, the thing that you just talked about, that could have been bitterness. That could have been bitterness. It could have been anger. It could have been resentment towards him. And yet you've worked through that. And there's times in our lives where we're going to be faced with somebody's going to get that promotion, somebody's going to whatever that we feel like was ours. It should have been ours. And you can either hold on to that and it can eat you up and be prison. You can be a prisoner of it, or you can deal with it. And it sounds like you dealt with it. There's obviously the physical, you know, challenges that you had. Again, I can either shut it down and not leave the house, like you said, and I trust me, if it was me, I probably still wouldn't have left the house. So I give you credit because that's a season, and you work through that season. But even in that season, you found your why, and that was your daughter. And so I commend you for that. So there, as you were telling this story, what I think is anybody listening, there had to be something in there that you identify with, whether it was somebody else getting a promotion, something you feel like you set your life up on was stripped from you, whatever it might be, man. And the other thought I had while you were talking was I heard a quote a few weeks ago that said, "The God of your mountaintop is also the God of your valley." And man, that how powerful that is, right? Because we like to celebrate the God of our mountaintop, like God is good, God is good, and yet I don't know that we always acknowledge that's the same God when we're in the valley. You know what I mean? And we want to share our frustration with Him when we're in the valley, but we don't always praise Him when we're on the mountain. And so you've been through both. And as you were talking, I was thinking about that. Like you didn't lose focus of that, and he never left you. I don't know, man. There's just so much to your story. I think we could probably go on for hours and hours and hours. But I'm so thankful that you would come on and share it because I can't wait for other people to hear it. But it's not over because
No.
so since that time, where are you now? Like you're doing a lot, and you have done a lot, and you're making an impact for the kingdom. So bring us up to speed. Where are you now?
Yeah. So yeah, now I'm actually a location pastor of our Rock City Church of our Short North location. So something I never seen, I never knew was even in the cards. But again, God is in the details, and He knows. And this all came about of a random conversation that I had with Kyle Young. Um, Met him because they were looking to have someone speak at an event.
Mhm.
And I have not heard anything about Rock City Church, not knowing anything about it. So, I got a chance to meet with Kyle, and he just was a person of high character and, a person with energy, and just a good person to be around. So, got to spend the time with him. So, I go to Rock City Church, and then, look at it now. I'm able to full time spend my time um, working in the ministry and making heaven full. Like that's our vision. That's our mission. Is making heaven full and helping others to try to find value in themselves. All value which can be found in Christ. Oftentimes we look and we plant our seeds in other places, but there's no better soil than the soil that God has and the way in which he can grow. So right now, I just go around watering seeds, man, and thanking God for the harvest. I thank God for the mentality because with this injury, there's a lot of things that I've learned from it. One, how to manage pain because it's anytime you have nerve damage, it's constant pain all day. But I've been able to take my mind to a certain place where
Wow.
I can still function and go, you know, regardless of it. Secondly, I have to figure out how to do things. I often critically think a lot of stuff, like how can I get all these groceries in the house on one trip? So
Right.
just little
You're
random
that guy.
stuff. It's not just you really have to think about different things. And, so
Yeah.
from tying my shoe with one hand but that's how I approach my business life too. So I do real estate, me and my wife, we buy houses and we rehab and we sell them. And that's my approach to it, thinking of different ways I could do it that, again, that where it won't take up a lot of my time, where I can still be focused on God's kingdom and how I can play a part in that, but at the same time providing a good product in real estate. So it's just the way that I've been trained to think because of this injury. It's been so important and so fruitful to my life that I know I wouldn't have this way of thinking, this capacity to operate in which I do if it had not happened. So I'm grateful to God that He allowed me to reach this level of thinking. There's so much more to go, so many more levels to achieve, uh, so much more to the story.
Mhm.
But at this time, I'm just so I'm glad, I'm grateful, and my hope is that I could just be a source of hope to anybody. I don't go out and share my story often, but if someone comes to me and say, "Hey, I think this might help somebody," just sign me up. I'm there. I'll share it. I'll do what I can to help others because I think that's where my real passion. I think we all looking for a purpose. I think that's where my purpose is trying to help others
Mhm.
achieve different levels and get them to places where God has for them to be. So.
Well, I don't want to correct you. You said you don't share your story often, and I want to say yet. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. All right. No. Anyway. All right. I'm gonna leave it at that. You don't share your story often yet, because I think you have a platform and a personality. And I want to go back to what you just said because I don't want to breeze over that. You're running a business, and but again, you just said, man, when you said that, like, I want people to understand in case they missed it. You have to figure out how to tie your shoe with one hand,
Yeah.
dude. That's something that like we take that for granted. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want people to hear that just in case, because you breezed over it like it was nothing. I guarantee you, I can't tie a shoe with one hand right now. I can't. There's zero
Right.
chance I can do that. That's a daily, and I'm sure by now you've probably figured out how. But at some moment, there was a moment where you said, "All right, I got to figure this out." And so, please, anyone listening to this, appreciate the fact that this man has gone through what he's gone through. He's sitting here, and on video, you can see he's got a smile on his face that you always see. Every time I've ever seen you, man, you got that smile on your face. You are literally, you ooze enthusiasm. And and again, I don't want people to miss the fact that, in case you didn't, go back and listen to the story again. You have every reason to be bitter, angry, frustrated, and literally, you have every reason. And here you sit smiling as big as you can smile, affecting all those around you, including a women's group that you visited one night. And I'm sure at Rock City and all the ways that you're ministering there, man, I just have nothing but so much respect and I have so much love for you because I just think we take for granted. I've said this on so many podcasts. There's a lyric that says you better take your so-called problems and put them in quotations because there's always someone else, man, that's dealing with something that, again, gas prices are high right now. Everybody's complaining about it. You had to figure out how to tie your shoe with one hand. Like, you see what I'm saying? I mean, in the big picture, our problems, air quotes, man, they're not problems, not to somebody else. And the way that you have taken your life and just said, okay, God, I'm gonna, and yet look back and seen how God was faithful and how He has interwoven your story. Man, it's so powerful. That's why I couldn't wait to get you on. I've been bugging you for a while because I couldn't wait to get you on, and I can't wait to get you in front of other people because your story is powerful, and any chance I have to share you with any audience, because I know you are going to impact other people, and that is your why. But let's just say this: you spoke about your why being your daughter. You got a baller at home, man. She's good.
Yeah, she's been gifted. Definitely gifted talent.
She's good, man. She's really good.
She's been having bad, but she got 13 balls state this year. So
Outstanding.
yeah, she's a good athlete. Um, we actually put her in Christian school in Tree of Life, so that's where she's attending. Because as a parent, I'm trying to make sure that I'm focused on her salvation and her
Mm-hmm.
development with Christ. And we're really relying on God to do the rest in regards to the opportunity. The talent is there, and we truly believe we're trying to figure out God didn't give me the talent just to play basketball, just like He
Mm-hmm.
didn't give me the ability to run and jump just to play football. But it's
Mm-hmm.
so much more that has come from those talents, from those opportunities that He presented me with, that now I can have, or now I'm invited to this type of platform where people will listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that would be the same if He didn't give me those talents and those abilities. So, it's just how can we serve God in the midst of being humble and grateful for what He did give us? Because that's normally the hardest thing to be grateful for is the things that we were given that we didn't have to
Mm-hmm.
work for.
Right.
Which again, I believe that my daughter, she works. I'm not gonna say she don't do any work, but this point, I think she's still riding that wave of talent too. That
Right.
God was
There comes a
super
point.
generous in that
Mm-hmm.
aspect. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. But yeah, man, we're thankful. Me and my wife is we're just talking about our schedule, trying to navigate through it because she's track season now and she's doing AAU basketball. So, but I get to see it from this aspect of a parent
Mm-hmm.
uh, because living out what I had a chance to live out, but on the other end. So it's a blessing um, that she not only has the talent, but she has the mind to want to do it, to want to get better, to stay out of trouble. Um, but hey, she got a mind to love the Lord too. So this
That's
is
awesome.
yeah, that's
Which
it.
is a great role model. And again, I go back
Thank
to the fact that at the earliest times when that cement was really, really wet,
you.
you know what I mean? You were there to help mold and shape who she is today. And she knows your story on top of everything else. And so she's got an excellent role model and something to look back to that's right in her own home. And it's her dad and his story when she looks at her faith and she starts to create her own faith, as we said, not her parents' faith and not religion, not just going to church, but actually scripting her faith and who she is. She's got a great role model, and she doesn't have to look
Thank
very
you.
far any farther than her dad. And honestly, man, and you probably know this too. Like I think so many of us form our faith from our dad, or our relationship with our father, because that's that it's such a mere situation. And she's got a great role model, man. She's got a great role model, and they both because you have two daughters, correct?
Three.
Three daughters. Right? There you go. So all three, man, all three have a wonderful role model in their home, and I've never met your bride, but I'm sure from what I've heard, and seen,
She's amazing.
you are a power couple and a wonderful couple, and they have great role models in their home.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Appreciate that, Aaron. Something I will share before we end it
Yes,
here,
sir.
and this is something I just experienced within the last year. Um, you know, I try to portray myself as being normal. I didn't want people to look at me as if I had I don't even call it a disability. So for years, I've always walked around with my hand in my pocket. And I worked, when I was at Walmart, I worked with people for 2 years, 2 or 3 years before they even knew I had an injury
I believe it.
because they always seen my hand in my pocket. Well, this past year, we had a staff retreat, and Pastor Chad challenged us to ask God, like, what is it? What do we need to give up?
Hmm.
God wants to move in our life, but we have to give up something. And I asked him that, and I heard him say my reputation.
Mm.
And I'm like, what you mean my reputation? Like, I don't get it. I work for the church. Everybody know, like,
Hmm.
what do you say your reputation? So as I was leaving that meeting that we had, someone on staff came to me and said, I don't know, just talking to God, so maybe he's asking you to take a step of faith, and I don't know, maybe have you, walk, not have your hand in your pocket. And that was something I was already thinking. But then when she came to me and said that, I'm like, yeah. So that was the start of my journey of. So I haven't since that day. I've been able to experience the freedom of not having my hand in my pocket, then just
Hmm.
letting where, it's out there. And again, it's just I feel like I gave up my reputation of not trying to look as if I had. I don't want to say I have a disability again, but I always want to hide it so people won't look at me or judge me differently just by that. So, and again, this was just last year that I've been able to experience the freedom of just going about my day, who I am as a, because I mean, it was something that I had to. I couldn't buy certain pants if the pockets weren't big enough to put my hand in it comfortably.
Wow.
So it
Right.
was just a lot of stuff I couldn't do, had to factor in, had to consider, simply because I always wore always had my hand in the pocket. But it was just some freedom I experienced, and I'm still learning as I go throughout this journey. But that was the most recent thing that God revealed to me, and I'm growing in it. Just thankful for it. So I would challenge anybody that's listening. Maybe God has something that He wants for or from you, but you have to ask Him, like, what is it that you need to give up
Mm.
for Him to step into that space, to give you a level of freedom that you probably never experienced before. So I want to encourage you, whoever it might be, if you're hearing this, ask God what it is. He wants to be involved. We talked about the details. He wants to be involved in every detail of our life, but He won't force Himself in. He wants the invitation. He'll only move on the invitation. So hopefully
Wow.
that meant something to somebody. But yeah,
Well, I can tell you the whole hour has meant something to somebody. And if it didn't mean anything to anybody else, it meant something to me. And it's
awesome,
meant
man.
something to me since the day I met you, since the day it meant something to my wife, since the day she met you. You are just such a blessing and a bright light. And I'm just thankful. I'm thankful to have you on and to share your story. Can I ask you real quick,
Yes, sir.
whether it's on socials or if you have email or is it, if something has resonated with somebody and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that? If that's okay for me to ask. If not, just reach out to me and I'll put you in touch. But is there an email or are you on socials, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, just Shaun Lane on Facebook, or you get me on Instagram. It's underscore Shaun, SHAUN, underscore Lane, LANE underscore, so three underscores. Reach out to me there. My account is not private. Feel free to shoot me a direct message or whatever. I'm always open. I love meeting new people. I just do. I
Yeah.
really enjoy it because you get to hear a new story. You get to hear about another aspect of God's grace that you may not have even been aware of, man. It's always a privilege to meet and encounter and engage with new people. So yeah, hit me up on social media. That's normally the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Well, you're the man. And if not, again, just reach out to me, Aaron at myunscripted.com, and I will get you in touch or I'll pass on the message, however we want to do that. But, and please do that because it's, you took an hour of your time today, to be here. You carved out some time to share your story. And I genuinely mean it. You know, you are a blessing, man. Your joy is just so enthusiastic. It's so contagious, and I love that about you. And so, man, that was it. I just thank you for your time. It's been wonderful, and I'm so thankful that you would come on with us.
Man, I appreciate the opportunity, man. I'll be praying for you and everyone, all the listeners out there, man. Thank you guys for just a moment of your ear.
All right. Well, and I don't think we've heard the last from Shaun, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave that. I'm a king of the cliffhanger, so I'll leave the cliffhanger out there. Who knows what that even means? But I know we haven't heard the last from you. So you're my brother, man. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Talk soon.
Yes, sir.